to a village and sort of say, feed us. And then the village would have to feed them, usually for fear that these people are going to give us some trouble. Now what happened was that some of these sannyasis, they became dacoits. You know, these sannyasis were not all on the level, they were not all above board, and some of them were, you know, started to engage in criminal activities. So they're dressed like sadhus, but they're criminals. And what happened was that they got put down. Now, the trouble was that when they got put down by the British, that the repercussions went too far, and you know, just like whatever usually happens in this kind of situation, is that the heavy hand of the law comes down, and it hits more people than are aimed at. So a lot of these real genuine sannyasis were also being suppressed, and they got angry about it, and so there was a bit of a rebellion that took place, and there were skirmishes that took place, and a lot of the sannyasis are Naga Babas, and the Naga Babas, even now you can still see. Just the other day I saw in the Parikrama Marg, there was a parikrama of sadhus from a Naga Sampradaya. Usually they're either Ramanandis or from some other sect. You know, they have the Akharas and Haridwar and so on, and you know they're doing martial arts. So you'll see them spinning swords, and they use this very flexible sword. You may have seen that has a sharp edge, and they spin it around and dance with it, and or with sticks, and doing these kinds of martial arts. So the sannyasis were these Naga sannyasis. They were practicing martial arts. So they considered themselves. This had happened as a result of the Muslim invasion. That they in order to defend the Hindu sadhus from Muslim suppression and torture and so on, they defended themselves by arms. So these Naga sannyasis, like at the Kumbh Mela, the first people to take their bath are the Nagas, because they're kind of like the Kshatriyas amongst the sadhus. So even though the Nagas will be naked, not all the Nagas are naked, and the real purpose of the Nagas was this militarized type of scenario. Anyway, I'm going way off topic again. But I just, it's kind of like you have to know these things in order to be able to understand the rest of what I'm going to say. So, Bankim Chandra wrote a book called Ananda Mat, where he kind of takes this historical incident and turns it into something else. He turns it into a moral lesson for the people of India. And what he's doing, he's saying that basically, what happens in the Ananda Mat is that the guru of the sannyasis, he says, no, what we have to do is we have to stop fighting right now, and we have to take this opportunity now to learn what we can. This is at the end of Ananda Mat. He said we have to learn what must be learned from the British. We must learn what must be learned from the Europeans, because they're ahead of us in some respects. And only then will we be able to properly practice our spiritual life. And he actually, in there, he says something about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. He says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bhavuk, feminine bhakti approach, we have to put that aside for the time being. We've become too weak on account of taking the feminine, on account of adopting this feminine approach to spirituality. We've become weak, and now we've been taken over. The main British character in that book is a drunkard. He's riding he kind of makes a point of it. He's riding on his horse, totally drunk, tipping away. But as soon as there's a danger or a battle, it's like he immediately sobers up and becomes an effective warrior. So this was the kind of thing that he was admiring in the British. This kind of heroic manliness, that they were so well disciplined in the military art that they could rise to the occasion even when they're completely drunk. So, this is the kind of personality that Bankim Chandra thought we need, if we're going to ever become free of the English, if India is ever going to become independent, we need to develop that kind of personality. We need to develop a heroic, masculine personality. But in order to do that, we need the proper kind of myths, we need the proper kinds of stories from our own past that will inspire people. And he found that he was in a bit of trouble. There weren't adequate, genuine historical cases. And especially he was talking about in Bengal. Yeah? Because in Bengal he couldn't get it. He could find it maybe in, let's say, so what Bankim Chandra started to do was to create a pan-Indian understanding, and so the Bengalis could take a hero from Maharashtra, or the Bengalis could take a hero from Punjab. So everybody in India became very admiring of the Punjabis, of the Sikhs, because of their military, and very heroic mood in fighting the Muslims. And the Maharashtrians also, the Ramdas and Shivaji, these became heroes because they fought the Muslims. They fought off the oppression of the Muslim kings and established a Hindu rule within their own country, within their own zone. So he wanted to, but he didn't have any Bengalis like that. That was his problem. But so the thing was that he thought that Krishna, we need to change the Krishna. Instead of having Krishna the lover, we need to have Krishna the hero of the Mahabharata. We need to have Krishna the expert politician. Krishna the one who, the Krishna the politician who, knows what is right and is ready to do what is necessary in order to have that done. Like what is the story of the Mahabharata? Well, I'm not going to tell you the story of the Mahabharata, But in the Mahabharata, Krishna does stuff. He doesn't fight himself, but he acts as a minister, as a guide to the Pandavas, and he is a king in his own right, but he's also a teacher. And so on. So he's a kind of a Renaissance man in certain ways. But the idea was that he's a worldly man. Krishna is a worldly man. And in the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna is a worldly man. Krishna is not telling Arjuna not to fight. This is the point. And this is the point that had also been, that in the 19th century and the 20th century, they felt had been lost in the Bhagavad Gita. You can only understand Prabhupada's interpretation of Bhagavad Gita if you understand this. Because prior to what in the 19th century and the early 20th century, the interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita that became popular were all centered on karma yoga, centered on action in the world. And they were, and they opposed Shankaracharya's vision, and they also rejected the bhakti approach, because they said that bhakti is going to make you action. You're going to do action in the world, just like Arjuna. His bhakti was to fight in the battle. So worldly action becomes both devotion, and worldly action also becomes the symptom or sign of knowledge, of jnana. Now this is the interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita that's given in the beginning of the 20th century, especially by a gentleman called Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and also by another, and by others. But they weren't the first. Tilak is really the best exponent. But Bankim Chatterjee is really the one who set this into motion, because he's saying, if we don't become worldly and learn how to function within the world and do the actions of the world and come up to date, be in the modern world, not reject the modern world and try to go into some spiritual nether region, then we'll never be free. And so really you can see modern India really takes its roots from there. Even now, the basic principle of spirituality in India is karma yoga all the way. and now, only now now that we're become so westernized in India, you're starting to get a westernized spirituality in India. The pizza boomerang effect, the coming back, the new age kind of reinterpretation of Indian spirituality is coming back in its what you can say, what do you call its ersatz form, and is being the main, it's kind of the main spirituality of modern middle class India, which is kind of a very interesting phenomenon. And anybody who's preaching Krishna consciousness should be aware of these things. So, so this is the point of tension for the devotees. If we're going to go after Radha Bhav, that we have to understand that this Radha Bhav has been rejected consciously and philosophically for a more masculine ideal that is also being represented by Krishna. So the Purushottam, Krishna, the supreme male, that is the ideal again that's being emphasized. To see the supreme male as being the one who is subordinate to his beloved, that is not considered to be appropriate.
Want macho.
Want macho. Want macho. I think we should stop. But let's just give one verse. I'll just quote one verse. This is
mentioned in Radhara's Sudhanidhi or
what I'm just saying now? No, this is all my own.
Don't say what is not.
I'm trying to.
It's a disturbance to us.
It's a disturbance.
Yeah, no.
Okay, your request.
That's my mistake, Maharaj. I asked a question.
No, but you see, Maharaj, I tell you why. Because I think that any Western, I know that for me, I'll tell you my own experience. Let me tell you, I came to India, and I was I was in ISKCON for 5 years in India, and then I went to my guru, and I got Siddha Pranali and started to do bhajan and trying to do bhajan as a manjari, right? And I did that for 5 years. And then I found myself in a difficult position because I was saying, why am I doing this? I'm in a male body. Why am I trying to be a woman? Huh? What is it that I'm trying to do here? What does it mean? What does it mean psychologically? Why am I doing this? It wasn't something that I just could at first I did it just out of faith. At first I did it out of faith. I was following the Shastras. I was just reading, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, the Bhajan Rahasya. That's where I started, and then I started, reading Ujjwal Nilamani and reading, Anantadas Pandit's books and so on. I translated that Manjari Swarup Nirupan. That was in 1983, I think, or 1982 even, because I translated that when Anantadas was at Keshigat doing Radharasa Sudhanidhi. So we were, I was actually going, when I had a question, I would go to him and I would ask him a question to help with the answer. So this is, I was doing it purely with a Shastric knowledge and trying to follow that. But then at some point, the doubt came into my mind. Why am I doing this? What is this? What is this all about? The idea that, just like you were saying, is this a homosexual thing? Is this some kind of, am I really gay? And I'm trying to, is that what it's all about? It's quite, I'm just confessing to you the kind of things that I went through. And so then what I did when I went back to the West was to try and start, I confess, I went there and I said, okay, I'm going to try to understand this from an objective point of view. I'm going to try to understand this from the Western scientific point of view, and I'm going to analyze this as information that I'm getting here, and see who can help me. You know, who can help me? What psychological knowledge, what sociological knowledge, what anthropological knowledge will help me to put this in a proper perspective so that I can see its value, right? Because if I don't see its, if I'm stopping to see its value, if I can reduce it, you know, that's the problem. I think I said in another class previously, reductionism is the danger. Because this is what all our opponents, I'm using the word loosely, right? I'm saying our opponents in the sense that there are people who are going to try to destroy your faith. Mostly they'll just laugh at you and say, "What you stupid idiot, you fool. Why are you involved in this fantasy of Radha and Krishna? Why are you, you're jumping up and down dancing, you may as well just be a drunkard or a drug addict, because we don't see any function that it has for the political situation." This is one thinker in the West, a person, Chris Hedges, who is one of the things when I went back to the West, I was one of the first things I did was to kind of go to different spiritual places, Western Christians and things like that, and to see what, to just talk, see if I find any. I was very confused, and I went back and I started talking to people, to see what they would say, and I would just go and talk and tell them about my life and just have a conversation and see what people would think. And so, because I was frankly, I was in a state of confusion, so I was looking for a friend, someone I could talk to, and I thought, let me try the Christians, let me try the Catholic priest. The Catholic priest said, "You've come back to the fold." He said, "Finally you've realized the error of your ways. Come back." And but the Protestant was interesting, because I went to see a Protestant minister, and the Protestant minister was a progressive Protestant, and he was disgusted. He was frankly disgusted with me. He said, that the real function of religion is to that your heart becomes soft and empathetic, and that you serve the poor, the weak, and you become an activist in society to change society, to make it a better place for the poor and the weak. So this is a progressive liberal agenda of progressive Christianity. And quite frankly, he thought, that what for them the worst thing is to become otherworldly, to become that you go and you become a mystic. For them, a mystic is just completely the wrong thing, right? And this is really basically the same kind of thing that I'm talking about here. Bankim Chandra is also saying that the mysticism is the wrong way to go, that we need a worldly religion, a religion that is functional in society, that will give people, that will make the society a better place for everyone to live, So, I can deal with that question, but the point being that the real point that I'm trying to make is that to deal with that question, we need to have a sophisticated response. You can't just say, you just can't take the scripture and say, Radha, Radha, Radha. You can, of course you can. You can be a Bhajanananda, you can be a mystic. But even if you're a Gaudiya Math person, you have to recognize that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was against that. He was also caught up in the same thing. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is also in the wave that follows Bankim Chandra and Vivekananda. He's saying that Gaudiya Vaishnavism has to have a worldly role. And that's when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati talks about Daiva Varnashram and all these things. His point is that, Tomar, oh hey man, tumi kisera Vaishnav. Nirjanera Ghare, Toma Harinama Kevala Kaitav. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says you're just cheating people. You're cheating yourself. You go into a lonely place and you do bhajan, but you're only doing pratishtara tore. He says you're doing it for pratishta. Pratishtara tore nirjana ghare tomar harinam kaivala kaita. He didn't even give them any credit. He said if you're doing bhajan, you're doing it for pratishta. You're not doing it for he was very heavy about that. He didn't give anybody any credit. He didn't say that this guy is okay and that one's not. He said that they were all bad. He said that that we need to have that Krishna consciousness or Krishna bhakti or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dharma has to be functional for the society in general. Now, I say that is, well, we see the fall, the results are there, and to some extent. But if we're going to truly try to do what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted, then we have to understand what is the functional role of Radha Bhakti. We have to understand, if you're going to just completely be saying, don't think of Radha, then you're actually, what you've done is you've sabotaged the whole thing. You've sabotaged the whole sampradaya. You've sabotaged Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift. You haven't. You actually are not. What you've done basically is you've brought another religion into the world that is just competing with other religions. And based on what? Because our Shastra says, well, we follow a this is in ISKCON we would say, this is a 5,000-year-old tradition, a genuine tradition. We have our scriptures which are 5,000 years old, and this is genuine. So this is the way we would approach. This is the Vaidya approach. Shastra Yukti. But we've got the Shastra. We say we have our authority. Just like the Bible. Christians are going Bible, and the Muslims are going Quran, and we're going Bhagavad Gita.
And Prabhupada.
So yes, and they're saying we have our saints and sages. So because of something, I'm not saying that that's all, but that if our bhakti is restrained and is kept to that stage, then our progress is going to be blocked. What to speak of our preaching? Our individual spiritual progress will not be there. We'll never get to where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking us when he says, Anarpita charing chirat karunayavatir nakkalo samarpayitum unnato ujvala rasam. We have to get to this unnato ujvala rasam.
Just a personal question.
Yeah.
Who was the most helpful to you when you continuation?
Well, I think Carl Jung. Carl Jung first, Sigmund Freud first, and then Carl Jung. Those two. Because Sigmund Freud points out the external level of... if I start telling that's going to... Let's leave it there, because I'm going to just... So we can use. It's not that we can't use these things. We can actually use them, and actually, it's not wrong. We shouldn't be afraid. We actually use them not just simply as supporting caste. The way that we use quotations, for instance, like on the Bhagavad Gita cover, that so-and-so said the Bhagavad Gita is the greatest book that was ever written. So you have somebody saying, Einstein, wow, the Bhagavad Gita, really great, groovy. So we put it on the book so we can have, but whatever Einstein, we don't, does this mean that we've accepted Einstein and everything that he says and does? No, we're just using Einstein to promote, we're using him as a promotion tool for sales. So we can sell the book, we say, look, Einstein,
George Harrison.
George Harrison, there you go, perfect, George Harrison. And now it's, of course, what's his name now? Anyway, poor Maharaj. Maharajji. Poor Maharaj.
This is not my way, and this is not my goal. Maybe this is...
No, Maharaj, I'm saying this one. We can talk about Radha Prem.
No, the subject what we have to go on that subject.
We did.
There is no diverse.
We need to understand why, we need to understand the subject.
देखो
how
देखो महाराज
how
सुनिए
it's relevant.
Understanding is this, that how you see the thing. If you want to be in material consciousness, your male consciousness will never go. And if you want to know the word of spiritual consciousness, your male consciousness automatic will go. This is the simple way. If you want to become religious, it's different way. But if you want to be a spiritual, you cannot be a male, then you are far from the Lord. Because He is Adi Purusha. Very simple. And if you want to be near to Him, there is a way to go near to Him. And what is the easiest way we have to find out.
Take shelter of Radharani's lotus feet.
And
The
be-
dust of Radharani's
And
feet.
have a female consciousness.
That is female. You cannot take, I cannot take dust of you and I cannot change your clothes if I have a male consciousness to enjoy with you. Impossible. But if I am like your real friend and I have no desire from you, I can do everything for you. So this is the nature, how I can serve Radhika if I have a male consciousness. Simple thing.
But he knew that, and yet he was so confused even after 6 years.
I don't know, this is a confusion. If I have a desire for enjoyment, I will so confused to become female.
I agree with that.
And
Actually,
if I want to change from outside the sari and become like a, what do you say, gay action,
transvestite.
outside changing, then it's different. But inside changing, there is nothing to change outside. You no need to change to become male. You no need to wear a pant shirt. But inside this female body, male consciousness is there for enjoyment. That to remove that.
That's the male consciousness that
Male
wants to
conscious.
enjoy for themselves, and the
Yeah.
feminine side just wants to be helpful,
Yes,
cooperative, and
yes, that's the point.
kind.
That is the changing.
Yeah.
How you can change without the taking shelter of
Yeah.
Radhika?
So Maharaj, I'm just saying, because I agree with you. This is all right. We'll just leave it there.
I know
It's
that
hard
you
to
are agree.
explain.
I know that you are agree and you took the shelter of Lalita Prasad, but after that you got some desire. You change your goal for that. Anyway, I don't know
I'm perfectly willing to, I'm saying, but I'm trying to explain my way, what happened in my life. And why I'm trying to, how it became important for me to be able to face the kind of criticism, because you're saying, yes, you know, what you're saying is true, but someone might say to you that that's the, you know, the materialistic person doesn't agree with that.
They're
So
gonna
I'm
say,
saying-
If I want to be in the bodily consciousness, I will never agree with that.
well, how did you manage a kingdom if you're being just helpful and cooperative and kind? How can you
Because
deal with your enemies?
I realize, I don't know why. I realize and I don't believe. I cannot listen. I cannot agree. I have firm faith, nistha. I cannot change my decision. Because whole realization in 25, 30 years I got it. I see everything.
Well, we will go on, but let me finish with a shloka.